The era of the Transcendentalists, a new way of American thinking. Transcendentalism is an American literacy, political, and philosophical movement of the early 19th century. It was centered around the genius mind of Ralph Waldo Emerson. The Transcendentalist movement can be summed up as a generation of well-educated people that lived before the Civil War who were attempting to create a unique body of American literature. This literature would be like no other that America has seen before. They deliberately went about creating literature, essays, novels, philosophy, poetry, and any other writings that was clearly different from anything from England, France, Germany, or any other European nation. You see, this movement was the first of the new way of American thinking. Ralph Waldo Emerson called for people to follow this movement. He believed that Americans should set themselves apart from the literature and the philosophy of Europe. He believed that it was time for Americans to create their own way of thinking. And so the Transcendentalism was born. In the words of Ralph Waldo Emerson, "We will walk on our own feet. We will work with our own hands. We will speak with our own minds. A nation of men will for the first time exist because each believes himself inspired by the divine soul, which also inspires all men." With the expansion of America into the Western lands came new thinking from the self-reliant Americans. Americans began to rely on themselves in order to obtain the American dream of success in America. In 1841, Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote Self-Reliance. It was a popular lecture essay that expressed the spirit of individualism in the American culture in the 1830s and 40s. Who were some other extraordinary leaders of the Transcendentalist movement? Simplify, simplify, simplify are some of Henry David Thoreau's favorite words. He is considered to be the partner of Emerson in this movement. He has had many great contributions to this movement, but one of his most famous is the book Walden. In this famous book, he called for people to see what life's real necessities were. He believed that life should be simple, and to obtain simplicity, one has to take out the lavish and unnecessary aspects of their life. Thoreau wrote the book Walden over a 2-year period while living on Walden Pond in Massachusetts. He lived a very simple life there. He slept in a one-room cabin that he made and ate a minimal amount of food each day. It is at Walden that he made a strong connection with nature. He was able to take the insects, birds, trees, and pond and relate them to life. By immersing himself in nature, Thoreau hoped to gain a more objective understanding of society through personal introspection. Simple living and self-sufficiency were also some of Thoreau's goals. Walden can be classified as part personal declaration of independence, social experiment, voyage of spiritual discovery, satire, and manual for self-reliance. Emily Dickinson was not your average woman. In her later years, she only wore white and was a hermit. She did not leave the house or talk to anyone other than her family or close friends. Even though her lifestyle was different, some of her poetry is transcendental. In her poetry, she appears to search for the universal truths and investigate the circumstances of human condition, sense of life, immortality, God, faith, and place of man in the universe.
I had no time to hate. I had no time to hate, because the grave would hinder me, and life was not so ample I could finish enmity. Nor had I time to love, but since some industry must be, the little toil of love, I thought, be large enough for me.
Many of the Transcendentalists became involved in social reform movements. As the 19th century came to its midpoint, the Transcendentalists' dissatisfaction with their society became focused on policies and actions of the United States government. This included the treatment of Native Americans, the war with Mexico, and above all, the continuing and expanding practice of slavery. The Fugitive Slave Law was passed in 1850, and it called for Americans to assist the government in helping to return escaped slaves back to their owners. Thoreau felt that this law was wrong, and he denounced the state courts. He said, "Trying a man to find out if he is not really a slave is absurd." Thoreau was not the only transcendentalist to feel this way. Emerson, in his lecture on slavery of 1855, called the original 1787 Constitution's recognition of slavery a crime, and he contrasts the written law of the Constitution with the laws and right ascertained by Jesus, Moses, and Confucius. He goes on to say, "An immoral law is void."